Welcome to Crash Course Apologetics. This is the Halloween edition of Ask a Scholar. We're going to be asking the question, what is the great pumpkin objection to Reformed epistemology? Fortunately, I'm joined by an expert in epistemology, Dr. Andrew Moon, who teaches philosophy at Virginia Commonwealth University. Hey there, Andrew.
Hey, good to be on the show again. Hello.
So, I'm just going to turn it over to you. I'm sure many people at this time of year are watching The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and so you've done an interview with me at this point on Reformed epistemology. That the link to that video is going to be in the description, where people can go and find out more. But what is this objection to Reformed epistemology?
First, thanks again for having me on the show. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody. The Great Pumpkin objection is an objection to a view. So what's that view? It's to Reformed epistemology. Now, what is Reformed epistemology? It's the view that belief in God or other religious beliefs can be properly basic. Okay, now what is it for belief in God to be properly basic? Well, it's for it to be rational or reasonable to believe in God, even if you don't have an argument supporting it. So normally you think, a belief like belief in God, you need some sort of evidence or argument that you can kind of deduce God's existence. But the Reformed epistemologists say maybe in some way, some of us might be able to rationally believe in God or know that God exists, even if they don't have a special argument supporting it. So now that's the view called Reformed epistemology, that belief in God can be properly basic. Okay, so now then, what's the Great Pumpkin objection? Well, the Great Pumpkin objection is attacking Reformed epistemology, and it makes a certain claim. It says, well, if you're saying we don't need arguments for belief in God to be rational, and you can just have a properly basic belief, then, you might as well just say anything, any crazy belief is rational. Let's say Charlie Brown's belief that there's a great pumpkin who's going to fly by him in Halloween, and clearly, so that's the gist. Now you can substitute anything for the great pumpkin there. You could say a lot of atheists nowadays are more likely to appeal to a flying spaghetti monster or a sky daddy, or pick your whatever. But fill in the slot and just say, look, if you're going to say belief in God is properly basic, then so is that. Here it might be good to put up that first slide.
Yes,
Jordan.
I'll put it up right now. There we go.
Okay, so what you have there is GPO, the Great Pumpkin objection, and it says the Great Pumpkin objector is making this claim: if theistic belief can be properly basic, then so can Linus's belief that there is a great pumpkin. Now, a little bit less well known is there's such a thing as the son of a great pumpkin, and that's from Plantinga, actually, when Plantinga was kind of dividing up between different versions of this objection. So the son of a great pumpkin objection is similar. It says if the theist may claim that her theistic belief can be properly basic, then Linus may claim that his belief that there's a great pumpkin can be properly basic. So it's less about a claim about our beliefs and their sort of rationality or irrationality status, and it's more about well, what can we say in a dialogue? If they're allowed saying this, we should be allowed saying that. That's the whole idea. But they're basically grounded in the same idea. All right, so making sense so far?
Yeah, I'm following you.
Okay, so you can see kind of what they're really doing, though, is kind of giving something that philosophers or just people call a reductio ad absurdum. A reductio is saying, your view leads to this absurd claim. So if you say belief in God is properly basic, then you have to accept this absurdity. Let's say that Linus's belief in God is Linus's belief in a great pumpkin is properly basic. And so, and that's showing that your view is absurd, so we should reject it. Okay, now this objection is something that I think was a little bit more appropriate maybe 30 or 40 years ago when Alvin Plantinga first defended Reformed Epistemology. In fact, I think Plantinga was the one that formulated the Great Pumpkin Objection to himself in the first place anyway, just to consider it. So um, so back then, at that time, Plantinga did not have a theory of rationality or a theory of warrant or justification to support his theory of or his view about whether belief in God could be properly basic. However, by 1993, Plantinga wrote two books defending a theory that's called proper functionalism. Actually, can you go to the next slide,
Yep,
Jordan?
I put it up right now.
Now, I've definitely simplified this, but what Plantinga did was he developed this view of proper functionalism, and roughly a belief is rational when it's produced by properly functioning, truth-aimed, reliable faculties. Okay? Now, the point here is, once Plantinga developed this theory that's supposed to underwrite his theory about belief in God being properly basic, then it was a little harder to just make the claim that Linus's belief could also be properly basic. And now, proper functionalism is Plantinga's theory, but there's other theories of rationality. So that's what that top line says. There's can be a theory of rationality where belief is rational equals blank. Fill in whatever your theory might be. You can be a proper functionalist. You could also be a phenomenal conservative, which says a belief is rational equals the belief is based on assuming that the belief is true. Okay, that could be another theory of rationality, simplified. Now, both proper functionalism that's explored in my other video with you, Jordan, and then phenomenal conservatism is explored in your interview with Chris Tucker. The point is there's different theories of rationality, and we should keep those in mind. Okay, so with that said, it's a little bit less obvious that the Great Pumpkin Objector can make the move that he wants to make. So, Jordan, could you move to the next slide?
Yep. Final slide.
Right.
It's up.
Yeah. So now you can't just say, oh, if Plantinga says belief in God is rational without an argument, properly basic, therefore Linus's belief is properly basic. Now that Plantinga has a theory underlying his belief, you have to see whether that theory can also transfer over and support Linus's belief about the Great Pumpkin. So here's what happens to the Great Pumpkin Objector. Okay, so it'll say, you have to say theory T, okay, which could be any one of those theories mentioned in the previous slide. There's two or just more. Okay, theory T, which implies that theistic belief can be properly basic with respect to P, also implies that Linus's belief that there's a Great Pumpkin can be properly basic with respect to P. Okay, now what's going on here is in this, when we talk about with respect to P, we're talking about some epistemic property. We've been focused on rationality, so I'll stick with rationality. I'm just noting in this more clarified statement that there are other positive epistemic properties other than rationality, like warrant or justification. Those are explored in my other video with you, Jordan. But the point here is now we have to check whether the theory actually transfers over. And this is going to be true for the son of a Great Pumpkin Objector star. So we have these little asterisks to note that they've been modified. So here, theory T, which implies that the theist may claim that her theistic belief can be properly basic with respect to P, also implies that Linus may claim that his belief that there is a Great Pumpkin can be properly basic with respect to P. Okay, so we can examine whether these actually work. Okay, so let's take that phenomenal conservative view, which says a belief is rational when it's supported by it seeming to be the case, like it appears to you that P. So for some religious believers, they have a religious experience where it feels to them, like it seems to them that God is with them or God is supporting them. Okay, now that theory might help support or underwrite the view that a belief in God could be properly basic for them. It could be rational, properly basic with respect to rationality. All right, but the next question is, does it appear to Linus that way? Does Linus have an appearance as if the Great Pumpkin is moving around? Now, it depends on how the story goes for Linus. if it actually looks to Linus like there's a great pumpkin mover moving around, then I would say, well, I mean, if that's what he sees, then that he would be rational and believing in God rational and believing in the great pumpkin in a properly basic way. But it's a little less clear that would be so. So it's less clear that we can make that transfer, and we can say the same thing about the son of a great pumpkin. Going to proper functionalism, planning against an argument that if God exists, belief in God would be produced by properly functioning cognitive faculties. Okay, now would that transfer over to the great pumpkin? Well, there's not really an argument given. I mean, the great pumpkin objector needs some sort of argument that Linus's belief would be produced by properly functioning truth-aim mechanisms, rather than just mere wishful thinking or wanting to prove that his sister is wrong or something like that. So that's the gist. What you're going to need to do is see if the theory that underwrites your theory of rationality, which is going to underwrite the belief. Your Reformed Epistemology, your theistic belief being properly basic. You got to see whether that transfers over to Linus. And it looks like either it's not going to work, or if it did work, it wouldn't be so clear that Linus's belief wouldn't be properly basic. So that's going to be the gist of the response.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Yep. Good stuff.
And I hope you enjoyed this Halloween edition of Ask a Scholar. If you'd like to participate in Ask a Scholar, you can do that by going to www.patreon.com/ccapologetics. Sign up for level 2 or 3. You'll be able to submit your questions each week, and I'll pick among those questions and contact a scholar who's an expert in the area to answer it for you. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again.